Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Back on with us is Katrina Glogowski. She's an angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Go Bills, Josh. We made the playoffs.
You mean Seahawks. Go Hawks. Top 10 marijuana stock news stories of the week. Number 10, Canopy Growth launches first and free CBD line in the U.S. So Canopy Growth announced official launch of its new line of hemp products exclusively available to American consumers, and their stock chart is growing more bullish by the day as a result. I'm not really sure that that's going to save them long term, but it is interesting that some of these cannabis companies up in Canada are coming down with hemp only. I would have assumed that would have happened earlier. Kind of interesting. Better late than never.
They have to go somewhere. Why not south of the border, right to their neighbor? And it's easier to get in the U.S. market with CBD than it is THC because of the federal regulations. So make it happen. Good on Canopy.
Yeah, we were talking to Mike West of Embark, who's from Washington, moved up to Canada. And so when we spoke to him at the International Cannabis Business Conference, or ICBC, he was telling us that it was much easier for him to operate from up there and sell to the U.S. than being here, which is, I don't know, makes me laugh. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
So Tilray, they're slapped with a $150 million lawsuit over alleged plot to bankrupt a takeover target. So there's a $150 million derivative lawsuit headed to the Florida federal court. Tilray's facing some serious allegations after news broke of a $150 million lawsuit filed against the Canadian licensed producer in the state of Florida. The complaint claims that Tilray, through a private equity firm, Privateer Holdings, plotted to bankrupt Savvy Naturals for the purpose of acquiring it at a reduced valuation. It almost seems like they learned that from Amazon.
I am not familiar with this story. I can't speak on it, but welcome to the world of business.
Exactly. I don't know the specific story either. I just know that there's nothing new about this. And honestly, Tilray, if you're going to bring Brandon Kennedy up from Privateer Holdings, the guy doesn't know anything about cannabis at all. And so if you don't know agriculture and you don't know cannabis, I expect Tilray to flop heavily. And if you're already trying these kind of tactics this early in the game, it means you have no ammunition. And so best of luck to you. I have absolutely no faith in Tilray at this point.
No comment, Josh.
And MedMen, that's another one. As soon as real estate investment prices dip 1%, they're toast. They further slashed their corporate jobs, extended their debt maturities, and are trying to get additional funds. So they dropped a bombshell news release last week highlighting several key changes being made at the firm as a result of securing additional financing. So I had spoke to a gentleman on the way home from MJ BizCon, Ryan Porter of Top Tender, sitting next to me on the plane and showing me the lawsuit from MedMen, or not lawsuit, excuse me, the additional capital required to remain a going concern. And I have no faith in that MedMen will be around long term. They just took too many gambles, too many short, not long arms reach deals, but they knew too many people and made too many decisions without having more of an oversight, more of a committee. That's what your board of directors is supposed to be. So yeah, if you're looking for funds and you can't use revenue to continue operations at this point, they're in trouble. That is a massive red flag to me.
I agree with your red flag statement, Josh, and I also think that MedMen is a cautionary tale. They had a good brand, they were well known, and grew exponentially without really a direction or a plan. And they're hopefully they can turn it around.
Mm-hmm. See. So number 7 on the list is that Hollister Biosciences is going to launch a premium organic hemp brewed beverage dubbed the Rebel Tea. So they are traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange under ticker symbol HOLL, and through its hemp division, Rebel Hemp Company announced the launch of its premium organic hemp brewed beverage Rebel Tea at Dreamhouse, the MJ Biz VIP event in Las Vegas last week. Dreamhouse, I can't remember, is that the WOW party or was that the Fairchild event?
That was the Fairchild event, Josh.
Okay. I didn't make it to that one. I heard that one was probably the best party out there. And so I'm not sure. I'll have to ask some people who did go if they were able to try some of this tea or not.
I have not actually tried the tea, but I do think we're going to see more and more mainstream products like beverages come into the market.
So
So good on them.
yeah, I'm assuming this made the list because it's another Canadian company coming into the U.S. I can't imagine any other reason that a hemp, tea company would make the news or at least even be on a top 10 list, unless it was kind of the same thing we saw on number 10, where companies are coming in and disrupting the market from those publicly traded companies up in Canada.
Yeah, well, it might just be they have the money to make these big launches. It's very hard to get the money in the United States with the regulations. So if the Canadians have the money, they can fund the launch.
So TransCanada saw revenue soar 90% over the previous month as its facilities expanded. So they announced the company increased revenues from October by 90% to $473,000. They're pleased with the November results. TransCana Holdings revenue increasing attributed to flower, edible sales, and initiation of manufacturing and distribution units. So maybe that's just a quick increase just due to the fact that they have more SKUs from Canada 2.0?
I think so. I think if you are just entering the edibles market, like they are, Cannabis 2.0 in Canada, and that just happened in October, of course your sales are going to soar in the first month. Let's see 6, 8, 12 months from now what their sales are doing. If they're first to the market, everybody's going to have a chocolate and infused chocolate under the tree. So let's see if they can hang on. But it's good news. I always like it when cannabis companies make money. That's great.
473,000 is not a lot. And neither is the milligrams up there either. So we're going to be heading up to the Lift Expo in a few weeks, January 9th and 10th in Vancouver, BC. So I'm excited to check that out. I'm not so excited to pay for some of the edibles, though, because at 10 milligrams, I think it's $8. So it's about $1 a milligram, and I need about 100 or 200 milligrams, but I am not going to be spending a couple $100 on edibles. So we'll see what I'm willing to pay for.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nice to see that they have an edible market, and maybe prices will adjust and come down. But you got to start somewhere, Josh.
So number 5 on the list for Benzinga's top 10 cannabis stock news stories of the week is that Innovative Industry Properties declares a 28% fourth quarter dividend increase. So Innovative Industry Properties announced to the board of directors it declared a fourth quarter dividend representing approximately 28% increase over the third quarter 2019 dividend and approximately 186% increase over the company's fourth quarter dividend. So new companies generally don't issue dividends. So maybe it's because of the competition. Maybe it's because of they just don't value their own future. A lot of people would just give and give and give because they don't value what they have to offer, and especially in a tight competitive market. But that's a steep dividend to declare this early in the game, when everyone else is still struggling to generate revenue.
My gut response, I'm not familiar with this exact situation, but my gut response is investor pressure to get some of their money back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's not a good sign. And neither is Aurora temporarily halting German medical cannabis sales. So German law prohibits the sale of medical products that underwent ionizing irradiation without a special permit. In the U.S., all foods are irradiated. I'm not a fan of that either. But Aurora Cannabis was forced to stop selling medical marijuana in Germany over a form of treatment that was used to maintain the product without microbial contamination, according to Aurora's chief corporate officer. I think this is fairly standard in the U.S., even though most people don't know it. Everything is irradiated before it's sold.
All cannabis in Canada goes through E-beam irradiation before it hits the market. They're trying to control contaminants. Is it a good way? Is it a bad way? Don't know. But we'll see how long that stays when one of the big five can't export anymore because it was irradiated. That's a regulatory question. A lot of people are not fans of the irradiation. It certainly affects the product and affects the time to market. There's not a lot of e-beam facilities. So we'll see what happens and see if Canada sticks to e-beam when one of the big five says stop.
There's no way, not with 70 million patients or potential customers that have access to insurance in Germany. They'll be making adjustments specifically for that market.
Exactly. This is corporations applying pressure to the government for either an exemption or a change, because Aurora's whole model is based on medical and export. And if they can't do it, I don't know what they're going to do.
They're going to go into Illinois, apparently. So number 3 on this list is that there's 4 Canadian stocks that are going to play Illinois' budding cannabis market. So the land of Lincoln could generate over $1.1 billion in annual cannabis sales by 2024. I think Colorado did that back in third quarter this year. So following the cannabis stocks, they want a piece of that $1.1 billion potential market, being Green Thumb, Cresco Labs, Curaleaf Holdings, and Acreage Holdings.
I did see the Acreage announcement, so that was interesting. But I think what you're seeing is the corporatization of the Canadian market, and the legalization of the U.S. market is not happening fast enough for that corporate element in Canada. So they're going to come in state by state. The Acreage deal was announced a long time ago, pending federal approval. And this is just them saying, okay, we're not going to wait. It's taking too long. We're going to go into Illinois first.
So Canadians drop $1 billion on legal cannabis, and Ontario is going to scrap its botched retail systems. So Ontario apparently led all of the provinces, selling $217 million worth of recreational cannabis in the first year of legal sales. Ontario set to remove the cap on the number of the private retail cannabis stores in the nation's largest province. And news that the Ontario government's new retail plan caused shares of Canada pot stocks to rally in response. So, I mean, that could be good. I didn't realize that Ontario had the highest amount of sales, which is pretty pathetic, because I thought they were going to have the government-owned system, and then at the last minute they changed it. Whereas you would think, logically, that Vancouver would have the most sales. They're probably the most established, but they really had a lot of pushback from the medical shops not wanting to transition over, and hardly any of them did, that we both saw at the ICBC just a couple of months ago.
Right. I'd actually like to see some of these statistics, because Ontario, the province of Ontario, hasn't actually been live and operational for very long. And maybe they just had a massive wave, and that's possible. There's also big corporatization in Toronto, so you might have some big export major deals that affect those numbers. But Toronto and Ontario, they messed up the rollout of the retail aspect significantly. And to see that they outpaced Vancouver, which has been up and operational for an extended period of time and home to 3 of the big 5, I'm very surprised. I'd need to look at those numbers, Josh. But if it is in case that Toronto is outselling the rest of Canada combined, good for them. I'd like to see cannabis sales. So if they figured it out, got over the bump, yay. But I would like to see the statistics.
So would I. I went out to Toronto to try and lock down a CBD deal a couple of years ago, January 2017, I think, or 2018. And I noticed that Hamilton had the most cannabis stores per capita in the world. There was more than Starbucks easily in Seattle, where we have one on like every block. I think there was a couple hundred, like 200 stores in Hamilton in 2018. and they had to all shut down. And I don't know where they ended up going, but maybe that was part of the sales. Is some of them did get the licenses because there were so many of them initially. I don't know, but yeah, I'm with you. I want to see the stats on that. We got to break that down.
Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers.
And the number one story of the week, pot stocks rally in reaction to Canopy Growth's new CEO announcement, and their stock, ticker symbol WEED, had a breakout. So Canopy's current CEO will step down and make way for Constellation Brands CFO, which is weird. The chief financial officer moving to his CEO position is weird. So the announced effective date of January 14th, the current Constellation Brands CFO will take over the reins of the largest Canadian LP and assume the role of the company's new CEO. That sparked a sector-wide rally in cannabis stocks, and I'm not sure why. CFOs are very, very different. They're analytical. We are nerdy people. We like our numbers more than people in some cases. We enjoy our spreadsheets. I'm just not sure that we're meant to be CEOs. They're more salespeople, and CFOs are more analytical, logical. I'm not sure that transition is going to work all that well for them, but time will tell. What do you think?
I'm less interested that a person with a financial background is stepping into the CEO role. I look at this as a point of interest that Constellation Brands is basically doubling down. Constellation Brands is Canopy's major investor, if not by exponentially major investor. And here we have Constellation Brands sending in one of their own to pull it up. Maybe it is a numbers problem and nobody understands, and that's why the choice is a numbers guy. It might be just the poor CFO drew the short stick and he got stuck up there. We don't really understand, but I view this from importance as Constellation Brands is doubling down on their investment, and they're in it for the long haul. You could have seen some pull away, some okay, they'll figure it out, but that's not what happened. Constellation sending big guns up there to get it in order. I think it's a good sign, and I think that's why the market rallied. Okay, Canopy's having problems. Constellation didn't run away. Constellation said, we're going to fix this. We're going to help. Numbers guy, short stick, doesn't matter. The press is Constellation Brands doubled down on their cannabis investment. And I think that's why the stock market rallied a little bit.
Yeah, but they had to take a $50 million write down. And so we knew that with Bruce having to leave Canopy as the previous CEO, there was going to be a shakeup. But putting $4+ billion down, they weren't going to obviously walk away. I think that $50 million write-off was an indicator that things were going to change, that they were going to take more control over the company. And it'll be interesting to see how an alcohol company with that mindset of being regulated but legal is going to work in a regulated market in the US, even though it's legal in Canada. They're dealing with medical countries like Germany. And so there's going to be some issues there when no one really has the experience in dealing with that. They have the capacity and financial capabilities to just kind of go in the same direction that alcohol has been going in. So I'm eager to see what happens.
Maybe they know something we don't know, and federalization is going to go under the arm of the ATF, and they already know that they can work with the ATF. Maybe their crystal ball is saying something different than ours, but at the same time, I take that this is corporate America doubling down.
Well, for the answer, you're going to have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. I want to thank my guest, Katrina Glogowski. She's an angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh. Go Bills!
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
By the way, if you enjoy the content, please show your support with the cushy gesture of $4.20 a month. on the Talking Hedges Patreon page. This will kind of help me spread the word. I've been asked to speak all over the world, from Toronto and Colombia, Spain, Miami, all over, Tokyo. But your support's important to me. I haven't monetized the podcast. I want to be as authentic and transparent as possible. I want to avoid conflicts of interest or even the perception of paid opinions. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or pay me on the Talking Hedges Patreon page, or don't, and I'm out.